All right, let's get to the lesson here. Students, this is the second video, in this series, Adding and Subtracting Rational Expressions. I appreciate you watching and tuning in. The previous Problem Set 1 video talked about the basics of the four-step process and where you're adding and subtracting these algebra fractions. These are rational expressions. So this is Problem Set 2. It gets a little more complicated. So let's take a look. And if you could make sure that you have a piece of paper handy, and here's a review of the 4 steps. Find a common denominator. Then you're going to rewrite the fractions or write equivalent fractions. Then you're going to add or subtract as indicated there. And then you're going to simplify. Now that simplification is, we're going to have to do some factoring possibly and pull out some common factors. All right, if you know what to do, go ahead and hit pause. Otherwise, let's do the first one together. All right, if we're going to find a common denominator here, I need to break these apart. Remember, the first step is to factor out what I've got. So the first denominator is 3a, and that would be a 3 times an a. The second one is a 3 times this binomial, 3 times a minus 2. All right, now, so again, the rule is to look for the largest group of each factor. Well, if I circle one of these 3's, then I ignore its copy. In other words, I only circle one of the 3's. Then I have a single a factor, and then I have a single binomial a minus 2. Okay, we have to think of them as 3 separate things. So, what I really have for my denominator is 3a times a minus 2. That's my common denominator. That's the multiplication of all these circled parts. So, that helps me figure out what to multiply these original fractions by. Well, here the 3a denominator takes care of that part, so I'm going to have to multiply top and bottom by this a minus 2 binomial. All right, so we'll work on that next. But over here I have the 3 and I have the a minus 2, but I have to multiply both of those by a single a factor. All right, so we're always looking for what's missing. All right, let's continue. So this would be 2 times a minus 2. And I'm going to go ahead and just do the distributive property right now and multiply that out. That's 2a and 4. 2a minus 4. And then I have a minus 5a. Just multiply the 5 and the a together. All right, so I'm going to now combine these all in the same denominator, which is the 3a and a minus 2. And I have 2a minus 4 minus 5a. If I put those all together, I notice that I can combine my a terms there, and so my final answer is going to be negative 3a minus 4 over that denominator. Now the general practice is to leave the denominator factored. Okay? And it turns out that I can't do any more simplification, so that's my final answer. All right, continue now. Hit pause if you know how to do the rest. Look for a common denominator, rewrite the fractions, do the adding or the subtracting, and simplify. So for my denominators, I factored it out. This first one is 5 times the binomial k minus 1, and the 4k comes from 2 times 2 times k. So notice how I have a pair of 2's, I have a 5, I have a k, and I have a k minus 1. So actually, we're going to take all those parts and put them together. So what is that? That would be 20k on the outside, and the binomial k minus 1. So it looks fairly complicated as a denominator, but what you want to do is write this out. Okay, it just involves a little bit of writing, keep track of what you're doing. And now we have to find the missing parts. So in the first fraction, I have the 5 and I have the k minus 1. Now I notice that I need a 4k. I'm going to multiply both of those by 4k. Those are the missing parts. Here I have the 4k, but I need the 5 and I need the binomial. So 5 times the k minus 1. Those are the two factors that are missing in that second fraction. All right, so to give me the common denominator of 20k times k minus 1, that's what I need to do for each of those fractions. All right, let's multiply this out. On the top of this fraction, I have 20k. And on the top of this fraction, I have 4k plus 1 times 5k minus 5. I've used the distributive property, and I have these two binomials that I have to multiply together with the FOIL method. All right, so this is going to be a little more complicated. I'm going to go ahead and put all these together on my common denominator, 20k times k minus 1. And I have a 20k minus, now that subtraction sign applies to everything I've got here. So 4k times 5k is 20k squared. That would be negative now. The inside terms are 5k and negative 20k, 5k and negative 20k, which would be negative 15k, but we're subtracting it, positive 15k. And then we have a positive 1 times negative 5, which would be negative 5, but we're subtracting it, positive 5. Okay? Everything in those last three terms, the sign changes because of my subtraction right there. All right, now let's take a peek at the final answer. When I combine my k terms together, I get 35k minus 20k squared plus 5. And then I notice that I can factor out a 5 factor from each. And that leaves me with, when I cancel my 5s, it leaves me with the final answer right here. So, a lot of steps. That was complicated. I hope you did well. If you have other questions like that, of course, you can always send me a message or a comment on my channel, Math Class with Terry V on YouTube. But let's go ahead and take a peek back at the last two problems. Looks like we have a simpler problem here. We have a factor of 2 and we have a p plus 4. And my common denominator, of course, is going to be basically both of those two factors multiplied together. So I'm going to have, in the first fraction, I'm going to have 2p over 2, and I'm going to multiply those by the p plus 4 on the bottom. That's the missing part of my common denominator. And then I'm going to have p minus 1, and it's a good idea, I think, to put them in parentheses just to sort of think of them as a group. And the denominator is p plus 4, and the missing factor there would be the 2. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom there by 2 over 2. All right, so my multiplication there is going to be 2p squared plus 8p, that's the distributive property, remember, plus 2 times p minus 1. Distribute the 2 there, and it'd be 2p minus 2. All right, over the common denominator we chose, 2 times p plus 4. All right, now we've found the common denominator, we've rewritten the fractions, we've added, and now we need to simplify. So let's throw this together. Let's look for common like terms here. It'd be 2p squared, which is going to stay the same right there. And then I'm going to add my two p terms together. That's going to be 10p. And then I have minus 2. Notice how I have a factor of 2 that can be canceled out. So let's look at that. If I factor out a 2 on top and bottom there, here is my final answer. P squared plus 5p minus 1 over p plus 4. All right. And again, I'm going to assume that you've tried these problems because I am going a little bit faster, and I expect you to pause the video when you need more help. All right, what's my common denominator here? Well, it's going to be x plus 1 and x minus 6 combined together. All right? So the first fraction needs to be multiplied by x minus 6 on the top and the bottom. And the second fraction needs to be multiplied by the x plus 1 factor, top and bottom. So on the top here we have 6x times x minus 6 multiplied out with the distributive property, and that would be 6x squared minus 36. Now we're subtracting these binomials multiplied, so use the FOIL method. 4x squared. Here I have in the inner terms it's 6 times x. Let me make a little note here. The outer terms would be 4x. I have to combine those together. They're both positive, so it'll be a positive 10x middle term. And 6 times 1 is 6. Now, when I'm subtracting, this subtraction sign applies to each of these three terms. Okay, so I'm going to combine that together, and I'm going to move this to the other page. So I'd have 6x squared minus 36 from the first fraction, and then I have a negative 4x squared, negative 46x, negative 6. And that's all over my common denominator of the x plus 1 and the x minus 6 binomial. How's that for a mess? Now, of course, I'm going to combine these x squareds together, which will give me positive 2x squared. And I'm going to combine these x terms together to get negative 46x, and then I have the negative 6. All right, final answer is crazy, but that is what it is. Sorry about that line there. All right. Thanks for watching this video, and look for the next one where we have to factor out our denominators first, just an extra step. Thanks for hanging in there, and thanks for watching.